We are back, and we've got a bunch of callers. Lots of anonymous. A lot of people don't want to be identified tonight on the program, don't want to make up a fake name. I'll tell you that one anonymous call was just outstanding. Somebody who had worked in politics as kind of an aide and assistant and seen firsthand that this La Raza thing that we bring up is legitimate, is the real deal, is not conspiracy theory. And just an excellent caller. Let's go to Scott in Washington. Scott, you're on the line.
Yeah, a couple of quick things I wanted to get to, and just kind of continuing on this theme of evil. You talked about it the other night, Jesse Ventura on Fox and Fools the other night, giving that Brian Kill Nazi. Well, you know, how he slapped around Elizabeth. Well, he gave that Kill Nazi a good old-fashioned country ass-whipping on that show.
Oh, he sure did.
And you notice how all of these propagandists have, along with these cops that beat up that EMT, how they all have this evil blank stare, this soulless look on their face and the blackest eyes and stuff. It's just this look of evil, you know, when they try to spread this propaganda around. You know, it's just, they all just seem to have that same emotionless look on their faces. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think that that's just any coincidence.
Well, you know what, they're trained, you know, to do that. I mean, at some point, they're trained to think that they're the authority, they're in charge, they're the boss, and then as they progress, they really get this sense of power because more and more they get away with, you know, worse and worse things, more atrocious things, and it does go to people's head. If you think that you're the boss, that you're the king, that you're in charge, that you're the authority, you have the power, you have the gun, of course a lot of people are going to get out of control. And I mean that, you know, again, it hits its crescendo when it says, oh, we're going to pull over an ambulance. Oh, we're going to try to arrest an EMT who's in the back with a sick woman. I mean, it's insanity to me. And, you know, when Jones called me this morning at about 8:45, I think, it was either 8:45 or 8:45 in the morning, and I was in my bank line, and he was telling me this. I was like, could this really be for real? I've seen the cops do some wild things, but would they really pull over an ambulance? Because, you know, I had a caller a few weeks ago, what I thought it may have been. And, you know, I know Alex is a great judge, and he probably wouldn't fall for something like this. But, you know, we had somebody call in about 3 weeks ago talking about this congressional plan for FEMA camps and martial law, and it turned out to be an Onion clip, you know, the satirical magazine and now website, or newspaper and now website. And immediately I'm like, all right, this is the Onion. We have to be a little more discerned. We have to know what's going on. But when I saw this thing, I just, you know, my eyes were rolling in the back of my head. My jaw was dropping. And thank God this guy resisted and did the right thing and stood up to the authorities. And some people are telling me, he resisted. He did the bad thing. He's a bad guy. He was the one trying to tell the son to put away the cell phone camera and just let this thing blow over because he thought this was finally at his end. You could see the frustration on the driver's face. He didn't, you know, he was just trying to get out of there. He couldn't believe this thing had even happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and the second thing I wanted to get to real quick, because I believe you mentioned it either last night or the other night when you were talking about Cindy Sheehan and about how the mainstream media started to ignore her, well, along with, I say, the so-called phony progressive media. And what really, and I don't want to say woke me up, but really solidified how phony this so-called left-right stuff was when a couple of years ago when she wrote that letter kissing off the peace movement along with the Democratic Party, you know, how they started attacking her when she started calling out the Democrats as well as the Republicans.
Yeah, and also because all she did was I feel for too long, but, you know, she did it because she had a lot of support within that movement and within that crowd. She said, let's wait to see what they do. You know, let's see what they do when they're elected in 2006. Let's see if the Congress really holds the Bush administration's feet to the fire. Let's see if we get out of these wars. Let's see if what they said they're going to do, and they didn't. And what did she do? She immediately stepped up. She immediately denounced them. She came on radio talk shows like Alex Jones and talked about seeing loose change and saying, yes, that's a big possibility. And then on top of that, she did what I'm encouraging others to do out there. She went out and ran for a congressional seat. She took on Nancy Pelosi head on, and what did? They demonized her. They stopped covering her altogether. The left turned on her. It's just simply disgusting.
Especially them, they started calling her an attention whore, and just like you talk about patriot envy and stuff, talking about, well, why is she getting all the attention? Well, she's the one that's putting them out there. Where were all these phony progressives putting themselves out there for all of these attacks and stuff. You know, she sacrificed the marriage and her finances and stuff, and all she wanted to do was to make her son's, life worth something. You know, where was the so-called phony left and all of that? So, you know, that's what really solidified just how phony this left-right stuff was for me.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for the call and the perspective, my friend. Let's go to Anonymous in Anonymousville. Yes, Anonymous?
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
I've called in before, but I've actually used my real name.
Okay.
But I don't want certain teachers or administration here.
Okay.
I basically wanted to go to college and then go to university.
Mm-hmm.
So I took law enforcement. Wanted to take something easy, and it is easy. I got over 90, and never did that well in high school. But I guess when you're interested in the stuff, I got over 90.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'd say, first thing they say, it's not like the movies. Double tap to the middle of the chest, shoot to kill, if you ever shoot, which I just thought was disgusting. Other thing is, if you get over 90% now, which I did, they try and stick you into like another 2 years of school to basically make you administration and get you off the streets.
Okay.
So the lower students, and my teachers always said, you get 60% and still become an officer, no problem.
Wow. Well, again, that doesn't really shock me because unfortunately the military kind of has that same idea. You go in and you take the ASVAB test like I did. I mean, I did generally well in high school, but I went in pretty blind on the ASVAB test to what it was going to be.
Well, I thought I was trained for the military and not being a peace officer at all. That's exactly what my point is supposed to be. And they made me, they wanted to make me debate against something, against the addictions class for needle exchange. I live up in Canada. I happen to agree with needle exchange because, otherwise needles pile up on the street, a kid steps on it. You may have your own opinion on that.
And by the way, that's where the majority of the hepatitis and the HIV is really spread. It's through dirty needles and drug addicts. That's the reality.
You have to go trade in your old one to get a new one. And they're not lying all over. So, people may disagree. I know how it is. But they said as law enforcement, you have to take this side. And I took the addiction side. Took the addiction side, and in my opinion, we won. Also, a guy called about sleeping problems, and he was speaking about marijuana. I have muscle spasms, anxiety. Usually when I talk, you probably hear, if you recognize me, I'm a lot more anxious. Get this. My doctor wanted to give me marijuana pills.
Yeah, no, those are THC pills. No, they're THC pills. Yeah, no, I know what they are. A lot of these shops that are set up in the United States, and I thank you for the call, and they feature this in the film Super Jaime. I hope people check it out. There are THC pills, drops, lip balm. It's not just smoking marijuana. And I had somebody send me some information about THC curing cancer, and I was quite skeptical. And then I think it was Washington Post, Washington Journal, THC cures cancer in mice and rats. And I looked at it, and there was the study, and it was very interesting, and I'd like to learn more. So you got to wonder, I've heard the conspiracy theory, or the theory, I shouldn't call it a conspiracy theory, the theory out there that marijuana is actually manna in the Bible. Obviously, you can have hemp. It can make a lot of things. Henry Ford made an entire car out of hemp back in the I think it was in the teens. But you can watch that video on YouTube. It's incredible. You're like, oh my God, this is a 100% hemp car, and I'm not watching Cheech and Chong for a cheap joke. This is the real deal. It's no wonder they don't want marijuana in this country. They don't want hemp in this country. Forget about the paper industry and the Hearst conspiracy, which is true. Hearst did want to nix out hemp because it was his main competitor for the paper mills when the main source of information, of course, were books and newspapers. That was one of the main reasons for outlawing it. But on top of that, they don't want to make it available today because of all its benefits. All right, let's go to Dan in California. Dan, you're on the line.
It's actually Dan